by itself. He said, I'm going to yell a little bit. You don't look worried. I know. So
that was like apex of my
and I told him, I said, isn't it great how Mike's getting rid of it? Yes, I did. And he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, little chance, little chance. A lot of tears in my iPad for you. What were you going to say?
You watch a game on that?
No, I watch it on my TV. But, you know, just seems funny. You see my fantasy football score.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you got to come in.
Sit right here, though.
They probably won't be in from
So you think you guys are going to beat New Orleans tonight, Thomas? I know.
Who's playing?
Kansas City and New Orleans.
Oh,
Yeah.
New Orleans is good.
I know. And you know who I'd like to have in the Raiders? Derek Carr. Yeah.
That's the Saints player.
Yeah. He's doing pretty well. Why are you so? I don't know. Oh, because it's kind of hard to get through. Hey, snuggle up now, man. Can I say that to them?
I don't think so.
I know.
don't think you
I
should.
know.
but-
That's my life.
What's your
Saying things that arguably maybe you shouldn't. I'm kidding. I know, right?
That's when you're back.
You got a lot of stuff there.
Okay. Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah. Really sorry.
I know. I thought that gig was
Oh.
There you go.
Herman.
Are you taking roll?
No.
No, that's how we he says, Ray girl.
There you go.
I like it. I like it.
Counting around everybody's. You know, we're really great with you guys.
Was this a setup?
Yeah. Oh, I know.
E2
Let me
Brute?
see what's in your
Yeah.
box.
Yeah.
Won't tell you when to not yes and when to not.
The traffic light is first.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Did you get that too?
I did, you did.
I'll follow you.
Okay.
He's good.
Good afternoon, everybody. My apologies for being a few minutes late. Believe it or not, I have my own life and an office to run, and sometimes I can't get out of there when I want. So this is a work session. The first item on the agenda is traffic logic automated speed enforcement presentation. So who's going to make that presentation?
That'd be me.
Oh, careful.
I'm going too fast.
Cords.
So if you would,
That's a good one.
That's right. I just caught on to that. My name is Russell Sarpy. I'm one of the owners of Emerging Enforcement Solution. You introduced us as Traffic Logic. We're a strategic partner with Traffic Logic. We're a complete turnkey back office solution that integrates with all of Traffic Logic's camera technology for detecting speed. We also are integrated with several other vendors that offer camera systems for traffic enforcement. What I wanted to talk to you today about is a no cost, no upfront cost system that we've been promoting in Colorado for about a year now, or a little over a year. The no cost promotion system is ran like a pilot program. We only want to bring customers on that wants to participate in a 90-day to 6-month pilot program, because typically vendors like myself that come in here to stand up this type of technology, we put a lot of resources into it. And if you don't fully understand the technology and how it works, a lot of times based on complaints that come in from your citizens out here, you'll sometimes abolish it and then move on. So I strongly urge and recommend that we look at, if this is something that you guys are interested in, we look at a 90-day to a 6-month pilot program where we're still charging and invoicing you for citations that are created, but you don't have to come out of pocket for anything. You don't have to dig into your current budget to allocate $32,000 for camera systems. We provide the camera system, we provide the back office. We just have to invoice you by law for the citations that are generated monthly for the services. Any questions about that so far before I move on beyond that? Yes, sir.
Do you, let's say we don't want the camera system, do you charge to undo it?
No.
Okay.
And that's all in our contractual agreement, which we call an agreement instead of a contract. So in other words, there is no, you send us a 30-day written notice and this agreement is voided out. And we go about our business. We pick up our equipment, we turn off the software unless you've got X number of citations that are still in there. We leave that on until they're all cleared up out of the system. Yes, sir. What automated speed enforcement is and what we're promoting is the officers that currently work here at Trinidad, they will be issued a handheld LiDAR camera gun. It's no different than if you put one on a fixed pole or you put it on a speed trailer. The difference with this one is an officer is physically out there holding the gun. When a violation is captured on the gun, it secures the video image of the vehicle and the license plate of it. That image or that video is docked daily into this system where then we process those individual violations that come into the system. Once we process those citations, then they go over to the chief or his police department as people that he designates to review all the citations that we process. So at the end of the day, the chief and his staff can say, that's the mayor's son, we don't want to give him no ticket. That's Councilman so-and-so. I'm just throwing something out there as an example, right? The police department has total control over authorizing the citations to be approved. Now he can say, well, we're going to authorize everything, right? So then he can go in there and select all and they're all approved, and then the next day they go to the mail center and they're mailed out. We have an online payment portal, or we can use your current online payment portal. We integrate with them. So we're a complete integrated system. So if you want to use your existing online payment company, we integrate at no charge to you guys whatsoever. But as these citations are being mailed out to the violator, they have the option with the current online payment portal that we've got. They can use their online, they can use their checks. We have a capability for e-check capability in the system. We have the ability to pay online. We have the ability to put a QR code so that they can scan the QR code. It takes the violator to your website. We mandate that you create a website in a certain format that is consistent with people being able to go on there and make the payments on there. We help you set all that up. A lot of times people get these citations, they think it's a scam. So that's why we like the QR code to take them to your landing page at your website, where the URL for the payment portal is on that website. They can click pay and they can pay. Like I said, it could be your vendor or you can use our current service provider that we're already integrated with. Man, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I pulled up my software just in case you had a question or you wanted to see something, but all of the citations come in that's being captured daily into the adjudication bin. We adjudicate. Once they adjudicate, they go to the supervisor's bin. The chief and his staff has the authority to approve or reject them. At midnight, whatever's been approved gets sent to our mail center and simultaneously gets sent to the online payment portal. Anything that's rejected is stored in the rejects bin. It is a civil administrative citation, which means you don't run it in the same criminal court with your civil court, right? So there's no points against your driving record, doesn't flag your insurance, you're not suspending driver's license. It's a civil administrative fine. It's regulated by the state of Colorado. It's capped at a $40 fine. It's there for public safety, and it does work. In the town of Morrison, we were doing 14,000 tickets a month in the town of Morrison. It's crazy. We've gotten, that was like 500 to 750 tickets a day, and we're down to maybe 100 tickets a day. So it shows that it reduces people speeding. And you have to understand, Morrison is Red Rock, so there's 10,000 people come in there every day from May to November. So to have an impact that can reduce speeding by 75%, this works. Now with that comes a lot of complaints, and I just like to, I like to really, I don't like sugarcoating anything, I like to explain things, because what I don't want to have happen is that, 90 days from now, you're like, oh, well, we didn't know it was going to be like this. I'm telling you, the difference between this and traditional law enforcement methods like the traffic stop, they can only stop so many people in an hour, right? So however many people they're stopping and encountering with, you might have a few complaints out of that. Well, if you put this camera in a location and it's running for 3 hours, 4 hours, or 8 hours, it's going to pick up however many people that are speeding 10 miles over the posted speed limit. So it can do 100 in 15 minutes. It can do 100 in 10 minutes. However many people is flowing through there that's speeding, that equals complaints, right? So you have to deal with that as a government entity, because that's what's going to come out of this. Now, I can assure you that the complaints go away in 90 days. The people are complaining of people that's speeding, right? Those are going to be the ones that's complaining. That's your 1% or less than 1%. But they do have a loud voice, that 1% or that 1% of people. So I just want to, explain that to you guys, that you will have complaints. Yes, sir.
How many cameras do you, on your situation, how many cameras would you use in a community like this?
You could probably do with the handheld camera.
No, the other cameras.
The like fixed pole, or I would have to assess the situation, and that's a great question, and that's one of the reasons why I don't recommend you making purchases like a lot of these other municipalities. They do this research and then they go buy 2 trailers. The trailers cost $32,000 a piece. So you spend $60-something thousand, but you don't really know if you need 2 trailers. You could use 1 trailer, bounce it around the town, and be just as effective. Or you can use the trailer, plus you use our free gun that we give you as long as it's being used, and that might suffice the whole situation of reducing the speeding down. So that's why I say running a program for 90 days or for 6 months is going to help educate you and evaluate what you really need as a municipality versus just going out and buying it. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
So for the trial period, if I may, is it, how many of these trailers and how many of the handheld units are given to us? Or
No trailers.
Okay, no trailers.
We're
only the handheld.
only the handheld.
Okay.
And you can get 1 or 2, and we would help the chief, we would consult with the chief to evaluate. There's 2 factors in that. Do you have the traffic, and do you have the manpower to support 2 guns, right? A lot of times it's easy to say, well, we could probably use 2 or 3 guns, but you really don't have the manpower to support that. So I always say we start with 1 gun. if you need areas to be worked simultaneously, we can put another gun to you at no cost. Our business model is kind of simple, right? We'll give you 5 guns if the guns are producing citations. We only get paid if it's producing citations. So we don't want to give you 2 guns and 1 gun is shelved for months at a time. We make no money. That $7,500 gun is being shelved. We're wasting our money, right? So that's our business model. I always tell the police departments in the town, after the pilot period is over with, and you guys, and this is justified to you guys that, yeah, we need to keep this technology going. The gun is $7,500. If you don't want to be mandated by us that you need to, we don't have a quota, but you want to be out there when you want to be out there with the gun. You're not going to work the gun 3 days out of the week. You might work it once a month. I just recommend you buy your own gun, and then we process tickets as they come in, because we're a back office. Does that make sense?
It does, it does.
Yeah.
And all citations are a flat fee of $40, is that
Unless
right?
it's a school zone.
Okay,
Great question. So the state law in Colorado, $40 outside of school zone, $80 inside of school zone. It don't matter if you're going 100 miles over the posted speed limit. It's 40 or 80. I think they will be modifying that in the future. But right now, I think with what Colorado passed, I think that was last June, I think it was really good. I think it was really good the way that they regulated the law, and we never was a 40% or 50% revenue share company. A lot of vendors that came into Colorado and throughout the United States, they get 50% of your revenue. You sign a 2-year, 4-year contract. It sounds really great. And they get paid when tickets get paid, right? Colorado abolished all that. You can't do that. We have to invoice you for the services. And just so that you know, our services equals to $14 an issued citation of the $40 or $80, right? But we can't take that off. So we charge you an hourly rate based on processing so many tickets per hour, which is 20 per hour, which is going to always equal to an invoice from us from $14 a ticket. But we're charging you an hourly rate for our service, which would be processing, the equipment that you're using, the storage of the data on our server. All that is combined into our rate of an hourly rate for the services. Does that make sense?
kind of, but it's, I'm sorry, Mike, it's a little confusing, like if it amounts to a $14 per ticket, and then of course entirely depends on how often the officers are using the handheld radar. Like they could use it for several hours, like you say, or not at all for a while. But anyway, that's okay. I'm sure we would figure out what it amounts to.
It is, because
Okay.
we were the first company to figure this out when the law came out. So we charge an hourly rate at $14 to equal $14 a ticket of citations issued is $280 an hour at a processing rate of, we only process 20 tickets per hour.
Okay.
It'll always add up. If you did 500 tickets for the month, you multiply 500 times 14, that would be what you would owe us at the end
I
of the
see.
month.
Okay.
And our rate to get there to make it legal is 500 tickets divided by 20 tickets per hour, then multiply that times $280 an hour, and that's what our invoice is. It's an hourly rate service.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to process those fees there.
Yeah, no, it's a little confusing, but it's the only really way to make it work. The only other way to make it work would be a tiered type system where you get so many tickets per month for our service, right? But if you don't generate those tickets, somebody's going to win or lose in it. That's what happened to Aurora. Aurora did a pilot program with some company, and they just couldn't win on the numbers.
So if they're not, let's say the invoice doesn't get paid, and we're not collecting anything. So what does that equate to? Do we still have to pay the?
Oh yeah, you have
Sure.
to pay the invoice. Yeah,
So-
you have to pay the invoice.
What would be our next steps? What do we do to?
That's why we go slow. I'm glad you're pointing this out, because this is the forum for this, right? You need to be at 35% paid on citations to break even, okay? no agency that has ever come on, whether it's in Maryland, Louisiana, or like Morrison. Morrison started off with 57% paid, rushing us to get stood up, and people couldn't even pay on the online payment portal. They had problems with it, and the first invoice was 57% paid. Okay, now that's not a guarantee, though, is it? Right? So what we do. One other thing that we do is we do net 30. So on invoicing. So let's say you did 500 tickets for the month. It'd be 500 at that rate, which is equal to $14, right? You would owe that to us, but you wouldn't owe that until 60 days later. So you've got 60 days of processing and collecting payments before the first invoice is due. So you might have 57% from the first one, 70% or 60% from the second month, and then by the end of the second month, you owe us for the first invoice, which was the 500 tickets. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so back to, let's say they don't pay, then it just sits there. Do you guys handle a collection fee, or do we,
So
we do that?
You can do it. We integrate with a collection company so we brought our collection company from Louisiana that Custer County is using, Hudson PD is using. It's called AMS. It's American Municipal Services. They're a debt collection. They're in numerous states. And so those agencies that I mentioned didn't have a service for that. It's not our service, it's the service we're already integrated with. And all that means is, at the end of the day, we run a report from the approved table. What's paid, what ain't been paid. What ain't been paid that's past so many days that you guys dictate beyond the due date. You may say, we don't want to turn anything over to a debt collection company unless it's 45 or 30 days or 15 days past the due date. All that's built into our software. We run the report. These are 750 that didn't get paid. Doesn't matter if they're made up of several months, right? Run the report, export the file over to the debt collection company, and then they start working on collecting that debt for you.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
How much muscle's behind your debt collection company? I'm just kidding.
It ain't ours. Go ahead.
I was kidding. And this may be a question for Chief Tahanovich as well. So it's my understanding that until we actually roll out the program, it would just be a handheld, right?
Yes.
So my question is, I don't really see this being a force multiplier until you have the trailers there, because until that point's in place, you're required to use manpower to try it out. I.e., you're not trying it out in a real use environment. And I'm not being critical. It's just an observation. So if we want to see a real world utilization, I mean, it's almost incumbent that you have the trailers. Or am I?
No, sir. I don't. I'm gonna let you answer it after I answer it, Chief. And so I'm retired law enforcement. I spent 23 consecutive years FBI, violent crimes, drug task force. I'm just saying, I'm speaking as a law enforcement guy. So, the concept that you're talking about really equates to having something out there in a location 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, compared to an officer, right? So that's really not what we're trying to do in this pilot program. I'm trying to get you guys acclimated to this process of seeing the citations, approving the citations, dealing with the civil administrative hearing that you have to set up for this. You'd have to set this up for if you put a trailer out there and it was generating 1,000 a day.
So
well,
yeah,
if it's generating 1,000 a day and your back office people and setting up your civil administrative hearings and answering the phone for people that's complaining or people that has an issue with the citation, you're not going to be prepared for that.
I see that. Okay, that makes sense to me. And then I didn't see it in the handouts, but is there somewhere that clearly explains the billing, how you arrived at that?
Yeah, in our we have an agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would just send it to the attorney.
I would be interested in reading that.
Yes, sir.
That's the only other question I have.
Yes, sir. And I hope you're the attorney I was pointing at you.
No one. He looks like.
I just made you the attorney. And so look, the
No
other.
jokes.
Yeah.
He's seen it all.
There's a lot of things that, even in this quick session of me being up here trying to explain to you the dynamics of this, it's still we have to do a 90-day program to get you guys acclimated to this. If you went and spent $60,000 on a trailer, I can give you a handful of agencies, if not more, that's done that, and they're like trying to get rid of that trailer. They didn't understand the process. And then the other thing is the gun that the officers got they're going to be more efficient than what his officers are right now. That gun, you can work it in an hour at one location or 30 minutes at one location, and however many people is speeding through that location, whereas only in a traffic stop, he could only do maybe 5 in an hour. He could have 100.
Right.
So you're more efficient in the number of people that you're mailing these citations to. So, yeah, that's good logic and good questions that you're asking, but that is the reason why. It's like I was telling Chief, Aurora wants like 15 of these. Man, we're not fixing to do that. They don't even have a concept of how they're going to manage a back office to even keep up with this.
Okay.
You know, so you got to come up with some kind of deployment strategy.
Understood. I appreciate it.
Neiman, do you have any more questions?
I was going to piggyback off what he said, but you cleared it up with the stands and the machines. So with the gun, it's not necessarily you pulling anybody over, you're just clocking them, and it's going, the information is going to you and to us and to them as far as pictures, ID, and all that.
That is correct.
Got it.
That is correct. People get that confused all the time. That's why I get up here and I talk, and they think that the officer is doing it and still engaging in a traffic stop.
Yeah, we're not engaging.
No,
You're just
sir.
taking the gun, so it's portable.
That's
basically,
correct.
until we get to a volume or get past learning the system to then utilize the stands.
That's exactly right.
So this is like a baby steps
That is
to
correct.
get acclimated with the system.
Yes, sir. And you may decide at the end of this that you don't need a stand. You may say that hey man, we need 2 more guns from y'all.
Right, gotcha.
Because it's more advantageous for us to put officers out here than it is to spend $32,000 on a trailer. I don't know that. This is my second time ever coming to Trinidad. I was here how many months ago?
I was over the summer.
Yeah, I drove around, right?
Right.
So you guys have a unique setup here traffic-wise that you're parallel with the interstate, right? And the way your roads work from this downtown area. So that's why I was telling Chief, man, let's hold off on a trailer. Like,
Right, just-
you know, I could be trying to sell trailers and make commissions off of trailers, right? But that's not what I'm trying to do here. I don't make commissions off of
Think
trailers.
about this right, this one.
Yeah, I want longevity out of you guys with this back office. We'll integrate. If you decided you didn't want a Traffic Logic trailer and you wanted a custom, we'll integrate with whatever. The meat and potato is this back office system. You got another one?
Frank, do you have any more questions?
Well, I mean, just for curiosity, if you give a vehicle a ticket, what's the possibility of the driver saying he wasn't driving that vehicle, somebody else was? How do you handle that in court?
It's abiding by the state law. The state law says that the registered owner is responsible. Just if it was a parking ticket or you got hit by a toll and your granddaughter was driving the car, you're responsible for the ticket. Now, in cases where court issue husband and wife, the court gives the car that's in my name to my wife to drive. She's driving the car around acquiring these tickets, but I have a legal document really saying that my wife is the registered owner even though it's in my name. So we have a transfer of liability that we have to be compliant with state law so that when this person does present this in a civil administrative hearing or picks up the phone and calls a designated number and explains that, and y'all say, well, email me the deal. You don't have to have a civil administrative hearing if you've got the evidence that you need to go ahead and transfer liability. She's going to give you the husband's name, the document in regard to the custody of the car. That's a transfer of liability. Enterprise rental car company, they're going to ding that credit card as soon as the citation hits them if the car is still out on lease. If it's not out on lease, they have this system down. Every rental car company has this system down. When they get that citation in the mail, they're going to send you the lease agreement back and recommend that there be a transfer of liability. They already know the terminology, and then all we do is transfer the liability from Ian Holdings over to the person that's on the contract. Those are your transfer liabilities.
Is it a big issue if we get a lot of Texans coming through here? They don't live here. How's that going to handle that with tickets?
But we issue out of state.
So how to collect, same thing, you have enforcement with...
Most of your out of state, just so that you know this, all your businesses and most out of state people, they pay their tickets. It's going to be your local demographics in this area. So this is a twofold process, right? You're going to have to deal with your local people. For one, they may not have the money to pay for them, or they just know that they're locals here and they want to make a stink, right? You have to come up with a solution that deals with that. Your people that pass through that vacation that's from out of town, they pay them tickets. And I'm only giving you my experience, right? Like, they pay the tickets.
But Councilman Chu, we do have to prove that a person is the driver of a car if they get a regular speeding ticket, of course. But in these things, I think they're liable. It is going to be like a parking ticket, and they're going to say you're liable unless someone is able to say, oh yeah, it was my husband, let's say, and the husband is willing to accept responsibility. Otherwise, I think the person the car is registered to will get dinged for it.
Because there's no points.
That's correct.
Right, exactly. And I think that is somewhat of the controversy in why people, because they will say it wasn't me, but they'll still get dinged for it. Yeah.
I can tell you this, like in the town of Morrison, where the volume of ticket, Morrison is population 350.
Yeah.
250 live in a nursing home in the town of Morrison. I mean, that's the God's honest truth. So there's a small community. The influx of people is people coming to Red Rocks. Man, they pay their tickets. Most of these people are from Wyoming, Texas, all over the United States that are coming in there.
Right.
And they're paying their ticket. So Morrison is a perfect example to see through traffic, out-of-state traffic. And again, this is something why I'm saying that you start slow, right? Because you don't know what your percent paid is going to be. You don't want to start issuing thousands of tickets, right? And then nobody's paying. I don't have a crystal ball. All I can do is educate you how the law works and how the system will work abiding by the law. I would much rather you guys be in a situation where I'm only invoicing you for what's being paid as the payments come in. But by law, I can't do that. I have to invoice you for services rendered monthly. It can't come out of paid citations.
Right.
In Louisiana, we charge $56 processing fee. We got real creative coming into Colorado. We charge $56 processing fee, but it's on paid tickets only. So we only get paid when violators pay in Louisiana. We can't do that here.
Right.
Eli, do you have any questions?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. One of my questions was answered, but on the speed guns, how accurate are the speed measurements? Because I've read that there's a lot of inaccuracies.
No, sir, it's 100%.
100%?
Yes, sir, it's LiDAR. So LiDAR is a laser beam. This is not radar. Radar is the beacon that you send out. You have to have some, even they've got some radar now that's got high technology that can pinpoint where the car hit in the beacon, right? But the handheld is a LiDAR camera. It actually shows where it actually hits on the vehicle itself, which is depicted on the citation. It's 100% accurate.
So is there sufficient evidence that cameras actually increase safety? Because I've read pros and cons.
Oh no, you can look it up. There's national data on this and more so with the handheld. I don't know why, but they say more so with the handheld of reducing speeding is a higher rate than a trailer or a fixed pole. And I think that they give that assessment of it is because it's so readily to be mobile. Like even the speed trailer, you know, you're going to leave it somewhere, and what you'll typically see is if you want to move it somewhere else, you have to have somebody that's acclimated to that for the recalibration of it and all that. The handheld is no different than an officer checking out a radar gun, going out there and positioning himself in there and working. The difference with this gun is it captures the video image of it, and it pinpoints where the laser beam is actually hitting the car to assess the speed of the vehicle.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is that it? You have any more?
Yes,
questions?
no.
What about permits on cars? Is that a wash? If a car is a newly purchased vehicle and there's a permit instead of a plate?
Temporary tag?
Uh-huh.
We get some of the temporary tags back. Generally, that's a DMV question that you're asking. And I'll tell you now, and Chief, if I say something inappropriate, you can put me in my place, but Colorado DMV is not very good when it comes to, being honest, I don't sugarcoat nothing. When it comes to not having the right address and people not registering their tags. In other words, you sell me your car and you leave the tag on the car.
Right.
Right? And you did. This person now that's driving and is driving it around with your tag on that. We see a lot of that in Colorado. We don't see that in other states, but we see a lot of that going on in Colorado. So yeah, we do get some of the temporary tags back. It just depends on which dealerships. If it's a mom and pop type dealership, we might not get them back.
Do you sugarcoat your beignets?
My what?
Your beignets?
No, I work up the beignets now. I don't make them, but my wife make them.
I thought I could get you on
Now,
that.
you ain't gonna get me on that.
So I think this is a,
Mayor,
if Chief, I'm sorry.
can I?
No,
Nope.
you're on it.
So, couple things. I'm assuming that officer with the gun, when somebody's 5 miles over the speed limit or something, the gun shoots it to your software. Officer doesn't have to do anything, right? Boom.
No, it's not correct. You're almost correct. So we install what we call a docking station on premise.
Okay.
So at the end of the day or the end of his duty, say he's only out there for an hour, and at the end of that hour, he brings the gun back, just like his body-worn camera. He puts the gun in dock mode, and it transfers the video files from the gun to the docking station. I just wanted to be specific.
Sure.
Then it shoots it up to our server where we grab it and we start processing it instantaneously.
So he punches in, speed limit here at this zone is 35 miles an hour, and then, okay.
Yeah.
Then you get it and you mail something out. I get stuff in the mail and I don't know who this is. Trash.
Yes.
What does this mailer look like? Is
Yeah,
it,
I seen somebody holding a copy of the citation. This is black and white.
Right.
Yeah, this is black and white. So ours it's color. It got printed like that. So that is what they're getting. It's going to have
That's
all
what it
your
is.
information on there. Your address, your phone numbers, your QR code to take them to the website. That's your citation template that you approve through us that you want mailed out to the violators.
Okay. And then I throw it away. You send me to collections. Collections comes after me. They want their cut too.
No.
Is that cutting? No.
Collection does a 30% increase, so you keep your $40. So if collections is successful and they're gonna mark that up by 30%, that's where they make their money, and then they send you your $40.
Okay.
Is there a, are you finished?
Yes.
I don't want to step on any toes here. Is there anything that says, like a statement that says that it'll be sent, oh yeah, there it is, collections warning.
And ma'am, this is the language that you're reading that off of the citation.
Uh-huh.
So each municipality is different. That would be your language with
Okay.
your attorney, the way that you guys want to set it up that's compliant with the state law. There's a lot of wiggle room and a lot of ways that you can set it up that the state law is not 100%. There's some area in there where you set it up the way you want.
Okay.
So that language is for you to dictate to us what you want on your citation.
Okay. So I guess,
After you're done. No, after you're done.
so, Chief, you've had a chance to see this system?
Yeah, it was on demo at the Chiefs conference last year. We didn't see it live, but he let me, check it out and see. And I know where LiDAR gun is, and he's absolutely correct. It is a laser beam that shoots out of the car, and you see it in the camera. And then he's showing me all the back office software and all that stuff. Just messed with it a little bit when he was able to bring it up last time. So yeah.
What changes would we have to do, Blaine, with our IT system for this?
That was actually going to be a couple questions I was going to meet with Mike about who, in terms of our integrating with the rest of the city website and stuff like that.
Yeah.
One other thing I'll add for the police department, so the handheld doesn't eliminate officer-involved engagements. It actually helps the officer. Say, for instance, I'm kind of an expert on criminal patrol, where the only way that you can get drug dealers, human traffickers, pedophiles, and things like that off the street, you have to engage with these people. And typically that's done through traffic stops. So let's just say you're on a road out here and it's one of your corridors where people do that type of stuff. Nothing is eliminating the officer from every 5 or 6 that he get on the gun, that the 7th one, I'm going to do a traffic stop. The next one that comes through here, it can be, because the law regulates, it has to be 10 over for photo speed enforcement. But whatever his current handheld tickets can be written at, it's still capturing the violation of the person. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He can now go do a traffic stop, engage with that person, and now he's got the video evidence from the LiDAR gun. So it's a multifaceted type approach to it. So I always believe there's a place for the LiDAR gun, even if you transition to a trailer or a pole, because you can still do interdiction.
Annie, you had a question?
One more question, and it's just to pick up what Mr. Valentine had said. So, just for, is it in an envelope or is it a postcard? I know it sounds weird, but I think that's where we're kind of getting at. Like, what is is it mailed, like
Yes.
a letter in an envelope?
Yes.
So what is on the outside of the envelope that would dictate?
Your postage address to the police station or to the town.
So it'll say City of Trinidad on it?
Yes.
Okay, that's what
Yes.
I was kind of wondering.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have? All righty, sir. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Item number 2 on the work session is water work presentation, utility rate. How come you didn't bring us any beignets, by the way?
I will next time.
I never heard of it.
Will you close that window, please?
I will bring beignets, boudin, and meat pies.
Okay.
That sounded like quid pro quo to me.
Yeah.
Beignets and no. It's fried. It's a fried donut
Very
with
good.
sugar.
Cafe du Monde.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never heard of it even.
it's famous and crazy.
Yeah.
Share screen.
It's a town.
Close the box, the white box. And then. Sure. Or I think you have to make her host so she can. Naya, can you hear us?
We have problems.
Oh, will
The
you
other night is a
do?
public hearing.
They've been working at defending each.
Can you hear us, Naya?
Good job, Linda. And Audra. In the audience.
Okay.
All right, thanks everybody for having me here. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome, okay. And Linda, and I think that's Audra sitting next to you, but it's kind of hard to
Yes.
see. But thanks for getting this set up for us. So my name is Maya Jameson. I work for Waterward. We specialize in financial forecasting. And myself and Linda and Audra and Cheryl and Mark and Bob and Steve and Dave have all been working together to work on financial models for your water, wastewater, landfill, gas, and power and light funds. So I'm going to go through these today and show you all our models and sort of what they look like currently and what we've worked it together to figure out a few different proposed scenarios for those funds. It's going to be a lot though, so I just want to say I'm going to run through everything, and then if we have questions after I run through everything, I'd be happy to go more in depth and answer those questions. I think you all have printouts as well, but there have been just a few minor changes, so I will show them up on my screen as well. And I think we'll start with water because I believe that's probably the easier one to sort of follow along with, and we'll go from there. So I'll just share my screen and make sure you all can see this. Are we good?
Yes.
Perfect, okay. So this is your water model. I'll start by showing the operating expenses and your current and proposed debt service. So basically what you're looking at in these graphs is a few years of audited financials, a sort of 2024-25 budget, and then from then on we project with about 3% inflation for your operating expenses into the future. So this is what your operating expenses and your debt look like. We then add, or I guess I'll just highlight just the capital expenses, and on the next slide we'll get more into the specifics here, but we've got infrastructure improvements around 8 million. And then for each fund we have a loose future capital budget. For the water fund we've estimated around $250,000 a year. And we just inflate that as well with 3%. As we know, 250 today is not going to get you the same thing 10 years from now. So we like to inflate those costs as well. And this is just a little snapshot of what is included in these capital expenses. So I won't go through everything, but we can revisit this later on if there's any questions and sort of take a deeper look at that. So this is a picture of all of your operating and your capital expenses. And now we'll look at the revenues to cover that. So as you can see, we've got a couple of different categories of revenues here. We've got your commercial rates, your residential rates, other operating and non-operating revenues, and then these bars here are grants and revenues that are proposed for 2025. So we've got some state and federal grants and then some SRF funding. And when we pile that all up together, we get this graph, and you can see that the past years, and I guess the current year, we're meeting those expenses. And you can see that because the bars, which are your revenues, are higher than the background, which are your expenses. As you can see, though, in 2025 and every year in the future, the expenses aren't quite, or I guess the revenues aren't quite high enough to meet those expenses. So as expected, your cash position will drop starting in 2025, and by sometime in 2028, you will have no cash left in the water fund to be able to pay for expenses. So I'll also make note that this dotted red line is an idea of sort of the minimum cash that we target to be around, which is it just covers 3 months of operating expenses, so a quarter of the year and all of your debt expenses. So if the black line here is at or above this dotted red line, that means you know if something happens and you don't collect any revenues, you've got at least a savings of about 3 months of your operating expenses just in your regular cash fund for your water model. So when we add these all together, you can see how you were above that line and you're doing good, and obviously just some unfunded capital here and then unfunded operating expenses out in the future. As we see the costs inflate but the revenues don't change, that just causes the cash to drop. So we have 2 different solutions in here. One of them is that we assume that you get grants for the Old Southwest Road transmission and the Stonewall Street water line. There was a $1 million grant for both of those projects. And we're just not sure 100%. Obviously, we don't know the future, whether those are going to happen or not. So I have 2 different scenarios, one with those grants and one without those grants. In both of these scenarios, we see a 3% increase in rates in 2025. And then depending on whether or not you receive those grants, in the scenario with the grants, that 3% would just be set, and that would occur every year annually, starting in 2028. So you get a couple years of a break, 3% in 2025, and then nothing for 2 years. And you'll see that your cash still looks okay, and then by 2028, we'll just continue those annual 3% increases. In a scenario where you don't receive any grants, you'll have 3% again in 2025, but we'll revisit this again. But as of right now, it looks like you'll need around a 5% increase in 2026, and then you can get away with about a 2.5% increase in 2027. Your cash just dips a little bit low, so I made a note of that. Basically, this says our projection for your cash in 2027 would be around $270,000, which is quite low compared to where you've been the last couple of years. So that's what I've got for water. If there's any questions, you can let me know, or I can move on to wastewater.
Anybody have any questions? Eli?
I have a question, ma'am. Does your company network with other consultants to compile data and statistics to make decisions, or is it just based on what your knowledge is?
Yeah, so we use a lot of sort of common standard assumptions. I'm sure you're familiar with the AWWA for all of our water projections. The inflation that we use is just a standard 3%, but we can always go in and change that. That's just it trends differently in different years and in different states. So that's kind of just what we use as a medium sort of average. But all of your data is actually from your financial statements. So we actually just put that into the model and let them calculate with that 3% inflation each year. Same thing with capital costs. So all the costs that we just saw on the water presentation were from Mark.
Is Mark here?
He is.
Oh, there you are. Hey, so how did the water tank project is not,
Water tank rehab is included in this also.
you have it included?
It's in there, yes. And we have 2 projects that we included for next year. We have a 100-year-old pipe on the old Sopers Road. A section that needs to be replaced, that's in there. And we have a 12-inch old cast iron water main that's 80 to 100 years old that goes through the Trinidad High School football field. There used to be an easement, a street that we need to get out of there. We've had several leaks, so it's about 10 foot deep. So that's another one of those projects that's in there that we need to relocate.
Thank you.
Good job.
So I had one question really quick, if I may. If there's future grants that we apply for and get, I mean, there is potential to defer the 3% into the future. That's more of a question than a statement.
Do you mean for costs?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you were to say, move this old Cypress Road transmission line a couple of years out, we would obviously want to know sort of what your thoughts are on inflation or increased costs.
I'm sorry, I meant if we gain some sort of grant in the future that isn't accounted for in this model, that presumably that could push the year that we have to start the 3% increase out some, or not necessarily.
Yes, of course. So let me actually move over to your actual models, and I can show you some real-time changes. So this is the status quo without any changes, and then this is the model without the grants, but I think we're talking about with the grants. So if I go in here, and let's just say, if we look at our revenues, let's just say for the old Cypress Road transmission line, instead of getting a $1 million grant, you got maybe a $1.5 million grant. That changes in real time here, and we can see how that increased your cash position a little bit. I'm going to show you something drastic just so that it's easier to see. This would never happen, but it's just going to be easier to sort of understand on the screen. But let's say instead of that $1.5 million grant, you received like a $6 million grant. Obviously now our cash is much too high and you wouldn't need to do that. I can go into the rate section here, and where we proposed 3% for 2028, I'll just take those out. And we can look at the model here and see your cash starts to fall because we're not doing any increases. And maybe by 2034 we want to start those increases. So I'll put those back in here. And okay, maybe 24 was not quite soon enough, so maybe 2032. And you can see how you can change these years and you can change these amounts as well, and see how that changes your revenues in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to stick this back to how it was though, just in case we want to look at it again. But I hope that answered the question.
It does, thank you.
Okay, perfect. And then I'll just put this back down to 1 million. There we go. So that's where we landed with the cash for the water model. All right. I guess I'll switch to wastewater now.
Yes.
Perfect, okay. So now that we all sort of understand what's going on in the model, I think we can get through these a little bit quicker. For our operating expenses in the wastewater, you can see that they were sort of around the $1.5–2 million mark in the last couple of years, and they're increasing at 3% inflation as well. And then you can see this big mountain of proposed debt that starts in 2031. And that's because of this expense that we have in 2030 for, we've called it modify/new wastewater treatment plant, because we don't quite know what that cost is actually going to be and what that project is necessarily going to be. We have made a couple assumptions around this. That being that we have put in $25 million for that project. But obviously, once we get closer to that date, we can change that to see what the real cost is more realistically going to look like. As of right now, we have just $25 million funded with some boil. We have a scenario where it's funded with all boiling, and then a scenario where we have some grants as well. But we have put in $100,000 in 2025 as a design cost for that project. And there are other sort of minor capital projects, but as you can see, that's the big mountain here that's going to be coming up in the next 5 or so years. All right, so now we have all of our expenses, including that wastewater treatment plant, and our revenues. So these will be our, again, operating and non-operating, and sale of wastewater services as the lower sort of numbers down here. And this bigger bar right here is going to be the loans that we have in 2030. So with all of those together, same thing sort of as you saw with the water side, is that your operating expenses and your revenues have been very equal for the last couple of years and even in the future. However, as soon as we tackle that monster of the wastewater treatment plant and we borrow that money, you can see this big chunk of lighter blue here is the proposed debt service. So that's basically going to almost double what your operating expenses are. And our options are to sort of leave the rates as they are, but unfortunately if we do that, we don't change them now, by 2030 you'll have to increase them quite a bit. So our proposed solutions to start making a way towards that by doing smaller increases now, so that in 2030 you don't have any super huge increases. And so this is what they look like overlaid, again with the cash growing a little bit because you have a tiny surplus in the future couple of years, but then again, as soon as we reach this payback period of the debt, that cash starts to fall and very quickly goes below zero. So I have the two scenarios that we created where this one, we have 100% of that funding is borrowing. And there are a couple of different rate increase options. So 7% increase in 26 and 27 for residential rates. And that's important to note that the residential rates don't increase in 25 in this scenario, where your commercial rates do. So there's 2 years of 7% increases on both of them. The residential rates just start a year later, so they get 1 year sort of break before they have to start increasing again. And then 5% increases annually after those 2, 7 for both customer categories. And you can see how by doing that, our cash starts to rise a little bit higher than, or our revenues, start to rise a little bit higher than our operating expenses for the next 5 years. But by the time 2031 comes around, they're almost reaching that expense. And as the years go on, we get to a spot where they're even and your cash is just about online. And this is quite a far lookout, but it is important to note that that would be a very large expense of the debt payment starting in 2031. And then the other scenario is that we have half of it grant funded. And with that, if that is the scenario that ends up happening, the debt service is cut in half, as you would expect, and then the residential and commercial rate increases will be the same. 5% increases annually for 26 and 27, but then only 3.5% increases moving forward from there. Any questions about the wastewater?
No questions.
Any questions?
I was, I'm sure it's possible. Can we get the updated slide deck at some point?
Yes, definitely. I will send that to probably Linda, and then she can get them printed out for you.
Okay.
We just met this morning, so they're just updated as of this morning. So yeah.
No, I really like the presentation. I mean, it's easy to follow along with, I'd say.
Thank you. That's really kind. I'm glad. I mean, that's what we're here for. So that's one of our big points, is definitely having the communication and the visuals. So I'm glad that that's working out. All right, I will move on to landfill then, if that's all right.
Yes.
All right. So we'll just jump into it again. This one looks a little bit different because we have a couple operating expenses that are only happening once every 2 years. One of them is crushed concrete, and then I'm going to just run into the model and actually double check the other one. So we've got, down here, crushed concrete and shred tires, and those are just offset each year. So that's what kind of gives this a little bit of a bumpy line. But again, operating and debt. this one, we have our capital expenses in the sort of near future, and then a larger expense out later sometime around 2050. So this is going to be kind of the same story that I just told with wastewater, where we're going to sort of make up our cash and work towards increasing our revenues for this post-closure project that's going to happen out in the future. And this is our capital expense table. So again, you can see the future, the current, well, I guess they're future, but near future projects. And then our future capital budget is a little bit lower on this one. It's about $50,000 that increases at a 3% inflation rate. And then we have $1 million for the post-closure project out in the future. So this is the graph of all of our expenses, and I will add in our revenues here. So this is working on a little bit of an assumption that we're going to be borrowing for the metal building and the dump truck. This $450,000 is sort of just like a leasing agreement that we have on the dump truck. That I think it was Linda gave me a little bit of insight into towards what that would look like. So that's how we have that set. And these are our expenses with our revenues together. And same thing, how you can kind of see this is the trend, is that the cash starts to drop, and by 2031 it'll be at zero. And we can look at that all combined. Again, you can see because we're at a deficit for the next couple of years, cash drops. Our proposed solution for the landfill fund is quite easy though. 3.5% increases for a couple of years, and then by 2031 we can tune it down to just 2.5% increases. And that's going to allow you to build up your cash so that when you have this big operating expense in 2050, you actually have the cash to fund that expense itself. And that's what we've got for landfill. Is there any questions on that one?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you have?
Yeah,
Frank's going to ask you a question.
You're taking an assumption that nothing changes. If you go with a 3.5 and then drop it to 2 and 5, what's the guarantee that it's going to do that? If there isn't more expenses at the landfill?
Well, this isn't sort of today's best assumptions, and we worked off of the sort of capital plan that we have for the landfill right now. So we've got a bulldozer in 2026, a Ford Ranger in 2025, the metal building in 2026, and then a dump truck in 2030. We spent some time going over these expenses and worked on trying to figure out what anything else might look like in the near future or in the long-term future, and landed on an average of about $50,000 a year. As the years go by, or even months, we come in here and we edit these lines. Anytime you have a new project that comes up, anytime that you have change in costs, we'll edit that, and you can see exactly how that changes the model, as I showed you earlier. So basically, if we were to find new expenses in the future, we could come in here. Actually, let me go into the proposed solution. We can come in here and make changes to that. If we were to say in 2035, there's another expense in capital. In 2035, let's just put another $700,000. That would be a big project that might come up out of nowhere. So now you can see we've got that expense, and at that point we don't have the cash to fund that. So what we would do is we would go in and we would add some borrowing for the project. Actually, let me do it this way. We put that in 2035, 700,000 in borrowing. At this point, I'd say, obviously I would check with all of you and see what this looks like, but an average that we see is about 20-year periods at 3%, depending on where you're getting that loan from. And now you can see how this project that we just added now has funding, and we've added the expense of the debt for the future years. And unfortunately, because of this unexpected project, this project doesn't necessarily have all of the funding, so maybe you borrow some of this, maybe you get grants for some of that. But it's important to keep this model up to date every 6 months or every year, and add these projects as they come along. Obviously, we don't have a big crystal ball that tells us what's going to happen in the future, so the best we can do is make assumptions based on your previous data and what your public works guys say in terms of capital expenses that they assume they're going to need in the future. But yeah, basically just once they come up, we go in and make those changes in real time and see how that affects the cash line. And maybe we could keep this at 3%, and let's see, now all of a sudden, just instead of doing 3 instead of 2.5, now you do have enough cash to fund that post-closure project again. So that's what we do when we find new expenses to put in the model. But all of this is done, I want to make sure we understand, all of this is done by everybody, all your wonderful staff in Trinidad. I've spent a lot of time with Linda and Cheryl and Audra and Mark and Bob and even David. We've all spent time in these models working together to figure out what these expenses and what these scenarios are going to look like. I'll just go back and put this back how it was. Take this one. All right.
Anybody else have
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, but we've had issues at the landfill because we bought a tractor or a truck and we paid for it, and then all of a sudden it went bad, and then we had to dig up, how much was 300,000 or something to redo it. So when you're figuring out those rates, you're not really considering anything in there that could happen maintenance-wise.
Yeah, so that's the point of having that budget in the future here. Ideally, you get these trucks and there's not much else that you have to do each year. And if you don't spend this $50,000 in 2027 or 2028 because your trucks are working perfectly, you don't have much work to do, you've essentially saved $100,000 by budgeting it for these 2 years and making the rates sort of in a place where you're able to put that money aside or spend it. So that's something that helps as well for the future. It's just taking this average and maybe you don't spend maybe you don't spend 50,000 each year, but maybe in 3 years you spend 150. And if you find you're in a position where you've saved a bunch of money and there have been no capital expenses and you've reached a point where you have a decent amount either in your landfill fund or maybe you've put it in some sort of reserve, you can come in and see what it would look like if you were to reduce the rates and maybe not charge a 3% increase each year. Yeah. So these are just for what we can see in the future and our best guesses, and this is Bob's best guess for what his landfill model looks like. But obviously, and Linda's quite good at this, coming in and making changes. So everything can always be changed at any time.
Yeah, well, I'm just concerned about, the 3%.
Yeah.
That's not really, that's just kind of a guess, right? I mean, if something else happens, that rate is going to have to change.
Yeah. But we're not asking you to sort of decide. This is more of a show of what it looks like is most likely going to be required in the future. This isn't something that needs to be set in stone right now. If this maybe in 2027 has to turn into a 5, that's something we can easily do in the model, make that change, and see for the future what that looks like. I think right now the point is just to focus in on the 2025 rates. If we don't do a 3% increase in 2025, you can see how that affects the cash line quite drastically. So making those little changes now is what helps quite a bit in the long run.
So, realistically, in partnering with your company, what it's allowing the city of Trinidad as an entity to do is to have almost, I'm going to use the word loosely, almost real-time forecast modeling of any of our utility departments. So in the event that we have one of these events that Frank is talking about, an unplanned event, we can very quickly discuss with you and forecast how that's going to affect the utility's cash model and make plans accordingly, rather than wait and find out that we're in a total disaster and have to have really chunky increases, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
When you, this is Karen Grego, when you forecast all this information, how did you assume that the population of Trinidad was going to grow, decline, and does it really affect these figures?
It does affect it a little bit. We don't have any population growth in the model right now. If you were to say see 0.5% increase each year, we can easily put that in here, and you can see how that makes a difference in the long term of your cash model. So that's something that we can also go in and change at any time. If you wanted to see maybe in 2028 you have a new development that you think might bring in 3% more population, we can put a 3% in there and then we can turn it back down to 0. And you can see how that affects the cash. That basically is just adding 3% of revenues.
Okay.
Yeah, and we would want to look at what that means for operating expenses as well. Whether for smaller population increases, you might not see any operation expense increase, but for larger developments, there may be operational increases, such as new salaries or like if you hire a new employee.
I think the other thing that's really important to note, unless I'm wrong, it could be, the other important thing to note is that this is for operational expenses. So commodity cost is extraneous to this model, in as much as if electricity costs more or potentially less, maybe, or gas costs more, obviously that's going to have a compounding effect on the bill. I think it's just important to note that.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, for most of these models, like anywhere that you see a 3%, this is basically because we use 3% inflation. So if you were to see a 5% inflation in 2025, you might want to, or sorry, I guess 2025 is like this current year, but if you were to see a 5% inflation in 2026, you may want to think about trying to match that in 2027. But as just like an average, they will most likely get evened out with the 3%. So that's why we use these numbers as sort of like a base. It just matches what inflation we use in the model.
Any other questions on this part?
And just
Some
clarity.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
What we're looking at is if everything is, all the utilities are 3%, you're looking at almost a 15% increase in utilities for our whole town by 2027.
Yeah, for some of them, because the water one, again, and this depends on whether you end up with grants or not, but the water model doesn't have any increases for your residential customers. I think that was wastewater. Yeah, your wastewater model doesn't have any increases for your residential customers in 2025. And some of them have a lower percentage as well. But yes, it basically you are going to see those increases. But rather than doing 15% in one year, you get to split it out over a couple of years, so it's much less painful or noticeable.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so I just have a quick question. So just for my clarity, the rate increase since the landfill is different than the other departments that actually has many line items, do all those line items go up 3%? Is that what the proposal is? So
Yeah, so what we have in here is we've got landfill refuse disposal revenue, and the landfill e-recycle revenue, and those are the two lines that we have for 2024. They were more split up in the previous years, but they were more wrapped up in 2024. So basically, it's everything that falls under this line is being increased by the 3%.
also, does that affect, is it the same increase for residential and non-resident? Or is that going to be, is that a different cost?
Yeah, as of right now, they're the same. It's just all of your collection fees, any sort of revenue that you collect from your ratepayers will just be increased. You would, like, those rates would be increased by 3%.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I can move on to gas now. All right. So here, this one's got a little bit of a spike in 2024. I just wanted to note that that was a increased cost in purchased gas. But we've got the operating expenses, which is a lighter blue, or whatever this color down here is. And then the darker blue or navy or black, however this one shows up on your screen, this is your purchased gas cost. And so you can see that spike in 2024. And then we've got a little bit of debt on top of that. For capital expenses, we have some infrastructure improvements, and on the next slide again we'll see those broken down, followed by a capital budget of $250,000. And these are what we have. So there's gas infrastructure improvements, gate station pipe replacement, power plant, some vehicles, and then our future capital budget. So these are all of the expenses layered together and all of the revenues. I just wanted to make a note, there were a couple audit adjustments I had to make in the gas fund for 22 and 23. So that's what those negative revenues are. But these are all from your budgets moving forward. So that has your gas, and I separated these into gas supply charge and other charge. As you'll see at the end, we separated them for revenues, rate increases. So these are all of the revenues and expenses layered together. Our cash line, again, is falling by 2031, which is 0. And then we have our sort of everything all aligned together. And our proposed solution for this one is a little bit more, well, I'm not sure whether I would call it complicated or not, but because there's 3 different charges, we had to separate them out. The gas supply charge, and this is important to note, will only increase or decrease as the cost of gas to purchase is increased or decreased. So your supplier of gas will do whatever they're going to do with their rates. The idea is just to match that. As you can see in the model for gas, if I turn on gas supply charge and purchase gas, you can see that they are meeting each other. So that's why the goal is just increase or decrease those unanimously or like along with each other. And then the base charge, so I think that was called
Meter and billing. Meter and billing 9.
Yes, meter and billing, thank you. That one stays the same. So there's only a 2.5% increase on the annual, 2.5% increase annually on the delivery charge. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm.
So is there a projected increase, Naya, in gas, or just the 2.5% on it?
Yeah, so basically the same thing that I kind of showed you in the other model with our operating expenses down here, where you have your purchased gas. We increased that at 3%. And then when we look at the purchased gas rates, oh, we're just loading. When we look at the purchased gas rates, those also just increase at 3%. So they cancel each other out. If you saw this number increase to maybe 4% increase each year, you would want to do a 4% increase in your gas supply charge. If it didn't increase, then you wouldn't increase your gas supply charge. So the idea is just, and forgive me, I can't remember the supplier, what their name is, but whatever they increase their rates by is what you would want to transfer to that gas supply charge. So it's just a straight through increase or decrease, and those revenues are pretty much out of your hand. It's whatever they decide that their increase is going to be is what you would have to transfer to be able to cover those costs with your gas supply charge. And then the revenues that you are putting towards your operating expenses, being the base charge and the delivery charge. Base charge being the same, and then delivery charge increasing at 2.5%.
So the 2.5% is only to the delivery charge.
Right.
So it's a real small dollar amount when it's calculated.
Steve, what is the current delivery charge?
Current delivery charge is basically 21 cents. If we do the 2.5% increase, it comes up to 22 cents. So on an average home during the winter month, the coldest winter month, which is either December or January, it's going to make a difference of $1 per month. For the average, for a average size 1,500 square foot home, through a yearly average of their CCF, makes a difference of $5.88 annually. And the 2.5%. So it's less than $6 a year. Makes about 2.5%.
It's good to have these people back here.
Okay. Anybody ask questions? Alrighty, I think we're good on this one.
All right, okay, we're almost done. We just have the power and light one to go over. And I saved this one for last because I think, and Linda can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this one was the most important increase that we have in terms of the sort of 5 funds that we looked at. But we'll start again by looking at the operating expenses and the purchased power expenses. And it was important to note in 2025, we actually see a decrease in your purchased power costs by $453,000. So we've accounted for that in 2025, but it's only a one year decrease, so we've increased that back up in 2026. And then there was also an 11.6% increase in transmission charges back in July. So that's what those kind of bumps are in the current years. For capital expenses, we've got, again, some infrastructure improvements, which I have in the next slide, and a future capital budget of $200,000, again, inflating at about 3% annually. So we've got, for capital expenses, we have a substation for $4 million in 2025 and 26, infrastructure for $826, voltage conversion for $200,000 in 2026, and our future capital budget of $200,000 starting in 2027, moving forward at 3% inflation. And I'm not sure if Dave wants to speak on what this infrastructure for $800,000 is, or if we're all aware of what that covers.
Yeah, that's just to replace the infrastructure, all the old poles, and for the future growth, like Duran's.
Perfect.
Yeah. subdivision, and that is.
Awesome, okay. So we have the total expenses or revenue requirements. Again, the bottom layer is your operating expenses. The above layer is your purchased power, which I guess would all be considered sort of operating expenses, but it's nice to see that distinction between those two categories. And then your debt are very small slivers of blue right below the green, which is your capital expense. And revenues, we've got your commercial and residential rates, other operating and non-operating revenues, and then a $2.6 million grant in 2026 and $2.1 million in borrowing in 25 and 26 for those capital projects. And we can see those layered above each other again and how there's a deficit in the future, which causes the catch to drop. And here's what they look like all layered together. And our proposed solution for the power fund is a little, this is probably the most detailed increase schedule, but we wanted to try and keep it as low as possible while still making up the revenues that are required to sort of keep your fund in a place where you've got some cash in the bank in case anything happens. And again, I just want to remind you, the red dotted line is just the minimum cash required to be able to fund a quarter or 3 months of your operating expenses and your debt. So for the residential rates, we'll see a 4% increase for a couple of years, followed by 3% increases for a couple of years, and then down to a 2% increase by 2032. And for your commercial rates, in 2025, we'll see a 7.5% increase. In 2028, we'll see a 5% increase. And then in 2029, a 3% increase annually.
So that comes out to 56 cents extra for residential.
I'm sorry, what?
56 cents extra on residential. Yeah. And commercial is $1.80.
Righty. Anybody have any questions on council?
Are there any grants available for the substation?
Yes, there's that DOLA grant we're applying for. With ARPA.
Would like to cover it all?
No.
No.
It's gonna cover a portion of that.
Yeah.
We still got to come up with the third match.
And then
And that grant is in here.
what about the infrastructure for poles and stuff? Do we have anything available for that, grants?
We're checking into that now. Yeah, there should be something out there.
Yeah. And of course, as we get more information on these grants, or even loans, in terms of maturity sort of dates or interest rates, we will change those as well. But for the substation, for now, we have a $2.6 million grant. And in debt financing, for the substation, we have a $1.3 million loan at a 20-year period at 4% interest.
What's a rate increase for, if it's, you say it's 56, what?
56 cents for residential.
And then what about, that's for the first 2 years, and then what will go up again?
I think it's proposed to go up.
Do we have, yeah, that's what I was, yeah. And that would make, yeah, that's out, how much it would go up then?
I was working on all of that, trying to get that before this meeting, so I only have just what the rate increases for each of the utilities for 2025, if there's a rate increase. So
Well,
that's something I was working on, but
yeah, okay, no, that's fine. I know it's tough to get all that one time. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
So, I had a question. What, and I should know this, what's our current position with two-way metering, people having solar? I mean,
So we have a customer-owned generation policy in place with the city, so We allow for it. It's more or less a volunteer program that we allow. We don't have to do it. But
Yeah, more than 5,000 meters.
So my question is as that, I mean, in my opinion, that's likely to become more and more prevalent, potentially even maybe mandated. So as we generate revenue by kilowatts through a meter, right? So if we sell less and less kilowatts because people are using or generating more and more, we're making less money. I mean, if you take it to the total extreme argument, if everyone was generating power from their house, we could be selling no kilowatt hours but have to maintain the plant to bring the power back into the system.
so a
Is that-
customer is only given, our billing office takes what they are purchasing and what they are returning, and the difference on that is where we actually get credit. It's anywhere from $300 to $500 from ARPA, because it's based on that avoided cost rate, which varies month to month, but it's about 4 cents on an average.
Okay, so taken to the extreme, it wouldn't ever put us in a position of not having some generated revenue to cover.
No. And that was the intent when we
Okay.
created the policy, is that other customers that may not have solar, that they're not
Right.
basically
So you guys
paying
already
the
thought
bill.
of it, you know.
Yes,
Perfect.
yes.
Any other questions? All righty.
So I just want to add that this is a subscription that we have with Waterworth, and Naya will be on board to update and you know, as we move forward and things change, we're able to plug in these numbers, and it's a great model, so we can see, you know, where we need to go, and it's a tough decision to raise rates, but in order to provide the service, it's a balancing act. And,
I mean, the real benefit that this has, and I know we said it already, is that it doesn't catch us unaware. I mean,
Right.
we're making corrections real time.
Correct. Yep.
And it's easy.
All right. If there's no more questions, I will let you all enjoy the evening, or I'm
The
not
rest
sure
of
if
our
you've got more
meeting.
agenda meetings for the meeting, or agenda notes for the meeting. But I do have time blocked off for the 21st as well, so whether you need me there or not, I'm not sure if there's any questions that will come up in the next couple weeks. But you all can keep me updated, and I would be more than happy to join you on the 21st as well.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
much.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your night. Bye.
Add one thing, our in-town residential meters would go up about 74 cents a month at a 3% increase, and extraterritorial residential would go up $1.24 a month at a 3%.
It's, as soon as I can finish the chart, I just didn't have time to get everything all in there. I'm happy to share if anybody wants that.
All righty. Item number 3 is second quarter 2024 proposed marijuana allocations and redistribution of marijuana tax funds.
So, thank you, Mayor, members of council. So, this is our second quarter marijuana request, and Cheryl's going to drive that. Do we need to shut this off here? Are we out? I was
I don't want
just
to end the meeting, Mike.
thinking. Don't want to end?
I don't want to end the meeting. Nope. Okay, well, I'll start it back up after.
She just said she didn't want it. I heard her.
Didn't touch anything, and it went
It's
away.
okay.
Sorry.
I'll start it back up, I think.
Thank you.
Clearly, that's what
So,
Didn't we just hire a friend to do a rate study on is it forecasting more than working on the future?
Exactly. Yes, ma'am.
I want to sit next to you.
I know, I like this.
I
I don't get in trouble this way.
Me either.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is like and then if there's okay.
Alrighty. So in your package, you should have the second quarter 2024 marijuana requests. You'll see that, again, it's declining. It's $134,000, $134,500 less than last year at this time. It makes $113,000 available for city projects. And in your packet, you should have the staff's requests. They are here to support those requests if there are any questions. We did unallocate the animal shelter concrete pad because it came in well over $5,500. So we're gonna put that in capital outlay fund and expend it through that under the renovation of municipal buildings. And so that gave us an additional $5,500 to expend, and these are the requested city projects. We did meet with department heads a couple of weeks ago and figured out which requests would make it to council, and this is where they are. Are there any questions?
Questions, council? Eli, do you have any questions? Frank?
No.
Neiman?
I don't have questions, Mayor.
And
So we have 1,283 left to play with?
Go right to it.
I just want to be really clear.
I'll take it.
There you go.
Also, we are putting $7,008 in incentives. $1,052 will go to Trinidad Community Foundation, and in the rainy day fund, we'll receive $52,561.
What is that balance currently?
Rainy day fund is at about $2,160,000.
And 34 cents.
Yeah.
She's 2 cheeseburgers.
That's actually a good segue to the second part of this agenda item, which is the redistribution of marijuana tax funds. I've handed out a copy of a resolution proposing that we basically, instead of having this quarterly project funding, that the revenues from this sales tax be just absorbed into this general fund, because as you can see, we're down to just a little over 100,000 that would go to city projects. To reduce the incentives to 2% rather than 4%, leave the nonprofits at the 1%, and then discontinue the rainy day fund that's currently at 30%. Going into 2025, obviously we have a shortfall, and with the declining sales tax and added expenses that we've seen bringing on the animal shelter. And so we feel like this is the best approach to handling the marijuana sales tax. It's now just becoming, rather minimal, relatively speaking. So.
we might want to talk, it's a very small amount of money, $1,752. And I don't know if that nonprofit could even use that small amount, because they just redistribute, and it's like, the requests are like $500,000. I don't know if it's even big enough now to even give it to them. We might want to talk to Colonel Simpleman and see if there's another way we can maybe assist with that. But figures don't lie.
Councilman Ogletree has it.
I just wondered, how long has it been since we've had a report from the Trinidad Foundation? I can't remember in a long time what they're doing, so I don't really know what they've been getting to. I'd like to know that so that I can tell people who ask whether they should apply. But yeah, I'm curious, how are we planning to support our boards and commissions if we're not going to be including that in marijuana funds? Do we have any?
We don't have any extra funding for boards and commissions. That's the bottom line.
So no funding for them? For the foreseeable future, or?
For 2025, for sure.
Okay.
The 4% for incentives, refresh my memory on that one.
That's the housing,
Okay. Now is
housing
that,
incentives.
okay. Is that for housing now?
Yes.
Yes.
It is, and it can also be used, I think, for other economic development incentives. We're hesitant to pull that totally away from this because the strategic plan wants us to focus on incentives and drawing business here. So we have to have something to offer in order to draw businesses, including a land bank. That was another part of the strategic plan. So, and while I agree with you that the $1,752 is not a lot of money for TCF, again, staff was hesitant just to take it down to nothing because that's really and truly a decision of the city council. So
Yeah. I mean, it's better than nothing, but it wasn't anywhere what it was a year ago. I did go to a ceremony that they had about a year ago, and they did a lot of little, but I think that would have to be, it was going to be minimal compared to what they did last year at this time.
and I believe they have just been accumulating the funds because it is these small amounts. Right. And they haven't really done any awards so far this year. That's why you haven't heard from them.
That's right.
But I will verify. I'll ask Colonel Simpleman to give you a report.
Yeah, you refresh my memory, that's true, because there wasn't enough for them to really distribute. Yes, ma'am.
If we're not going to use marijuana taxes for a rainy day fund, what, if anything, will we use for a rainy day fund? We won't have one.
Well, we have 2.1 million in there, but it's just going to accumulate interest. That's all. We won't have anything to put toward it.
What is the percentage we've given them now? What was it, 30? Sorry. Couldn't we just drop down the percentage that we did to the bare minimum? No trickle in?
We don't have any extra funding
Dollar?
at all.
50 cents?
3%.
Yeah.
Yeah, the budget I presented to you was $450,000 under, or out of balance. Expenses were $450,000 more than revenues. And we're not finished. We're still adding additional expenses that are probably, well, by the time we take a look at it at our work session, you'll see a significant increase in expenses.
But it's a good policy to have some kind of a savings system in the municipality. And I'm thinking, even if we don't have marijuana fund to rely on, that it should be something that down the road we're looking to make part of our budgeting. I mean, I understand what we're going through a transition period right now. We just can't, but I don't want to see us stop entirely.
Well, you know, that brings me to Another point, this is council, is the one that started the rainy day fund. That's when we adjusted all those percentages. But I think council needs to put our heads together and figure out what some rules and regulations regarding that. Nobody really knows what a rainy day fund is, and we should have some policies and procedures. And figure out if and when we really do have a flood.
What we can do, an suggestion would be if expenses come in under revenue. So if we have an increase in revenues over expenditures, let's say 300,000 for 2024, we could put a percentage of that into rainy day fund after the year's closed.
Yeah, that's something.
Anybody else? Questions on the marijuana?
No.
Okay.
Alrighty, then these two resolutions will be presented to you at the next meeting.
Thank you. Okay, item number 4 is capital improvement project discussion.
We'll have Cheryl put that up for you, but in your packet was a list of capital improvement projects that are planned, ongoing, in the future, and it's a spreadsheet that is pretty full. It's like 5 pages of projects. Staff went through it and kind of added some priorities. Since I've been back, there's been a few things added, and this would be a good time to get some direction for myself and staff on how to move forward. Plus, our strategic plan also said to present this with staff recommendations. So I look forward to a pretty good discussion. I know there's a lot of people here. Pickleball is on the list. And we just need to hear from council on where that stands. So with that said, we can just start at the top. Priorities are ADA Attachment B. That's a DOJ order, really to repair and replace non-compliant ramps. And then our ADA curb cuts Phase 3. Under the DOJ order, it's amended and we have a certain amount, and then we could actually, the first 3 items, ADA Attachment B, which is a part of the DOJ order, ADA curb cuts Phase 3, another part, and ADA Nevada and Cedar improvements were kind of added toward the end by the DOJ. So those are priorities, and we've listed them as priority to be completed in 2024 and 2025. And you can see the funding there. They're coming out of CIP street improvements line item of the budget.
Mike, can
Yes.
I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
When we're going through this, can you tell us how much money is available to do these and which projects are being funded?
What's
I mean,
in our
that are being
capital
funded right now.
Yeah.
I guess Cheryl can.
The first ones are out of our CIP, correct, Cheryl?
So I'm anticipating 2.6 million in sales tax. I'm sorry, 2.3. And I believe we're going to carry forward 2 to 3 million from this year that hasn't been expended. But I'm still working on grants, getting everything balanced. So it's potential, let's just say we have 4.3 million to work with for 2025.
2.3?
4.3.
4.3 overall. And then the audible pedestrian signals is a project that's been ongoing, and the grant match is $87,000 to get that done. That's been in progress for a while now. It's ready to go out to bid. We will have to have a match of $87,000 to complete that. Sidewalk incentive program is in the strategic plan, and it requires $150,000 a year, so you can see that's carried out. That's where we'll share the cost. If somebody wants to do their sidewalk, we share costs to get that done. Also in the strategic plan, it calls for funding a land bank. We've got in 2024, 20,000, in 2025, 14,700. That's just, there's a couple of pieces of land that are a possibility, but those have to be appraised and see if it fits within our plan to do that. Santa Fe Trail multi-use path, that's a grant with the city having $450,000 match. That is in design now. I know that we had someone come to the meeting, and it is a dangerous road. The county was gracious enough to deed that to us a while back, and so we're moving forward. We've got this grant. Our match is $450,000. The trail / walking path bike lane is being designed. Then the city garage, down the city garage, our sanitary sewer, the current septic / leach field is starting to fail, so that's a $50,000 line item for 2025. City garage storm drain, I know that that is been reported to be $1 million. That is not $1 million. It's $125,000. That is to collect and take the stormwater from that property across the Chiloli ditch and out. So that's in design. Almost, well, it is designed. It just needs to be put out to bid. The community center sidewalk shed and retaining wall, there are repairs in the back of the community center. The sidewalk is sunk and slopes toward the building. So we need to correct that. That is $84,000 in 2025. The community center roof has portions that need to be replaced to stop the leaking. We have almost $62,000 from insurance. It's an $80,000 project. The Isaac Walton building that we acquired has mural painting, fencing, and roof repair. Estimated cost $75,000, but $40,000 in 2025 is what we've anticipated.
What's a mural painting for? I mean, is it?
To beautify.
For the, I mean, I understand that, but is it for the whole building being painted? Or?
Yeah, it's, right now it's, Audrey, do you have that?
Yeah, I have my epiphany.
Nice. Yeah, we just.
So, what I'd like to see done is put up a fence so that when someone's passing through it, it's like, paint this top portion like the sky, and then paint this like a covered wagon on the Santa Fe Trail. And make it a mural, because it's not an attractive building, but it's very, to make it look like a covered wagon on the Santa Fe Trail would be meaningful at least. There was my epiphany there.
So.
The 40,000 is for the roof.
Is for the roof, right.
Yeah.
And then there is the Osolo Mio Trail development. That's the Osolo property.
Oh.
So that's kind of
We
a,
needed a name.
we needed a name, Old Solo property, Old Solo meal.
That's all I've got for now.
But the estimated cost for that is $260,350, but that's spread across 3 years. And in 2024, there has been an agreement with Six-Pack, I apologize. Six-Pack Trail Builders that was, they've started to build trail on that property. Bike/walking trail. So,
Was that, because he presented a price to us a couple meetings ago. Does anybody remember him? But I thought that was for the total project.
It's what's on the screen now. It's those figures that are on the screen.
yeah.
That doesn't sound familiar from the bid that they originally did.
No.
It doesn't even sound close.
It was pretty cheap.
We made arrangements, have we talked to the state more about access getting into there?
There has been conversation with the state. An access permit is required, but currently the way I understand it is prior to me that anybody who wants to use it parks down at Cokedale and rides up there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, on their bicycles. Right.
Huh?
Okay.
Yeah, it was just, if I remember, it was a work session presentation.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's my understanding that
Not 119 or something. It's over, that's why it came to us.
city manager is allowed to approve under 100,000 by quote, and that's my understanding, that's how that worked.
Okay.
So,
We need to put that on the work session.
what's that?
We need to put that on the work session. I think.
Our next work session is going to be straight budget. I think there's a couple things, but I think that definitely is something that needs to be done. Fire Station 2, bedroom additions, interior painting, bathroom remodel, window replacement. My understanding, I don't know if the chief is here, they did one of the fire stations and got it cleaned up. This is the other one that needs to be done. We've got that out in 4 years, starting with 2025 at 25,000 and working there and kind of attacking that. LEA improvements. The much anticipated improvements to LEA will make space for a great gathering location downtown. The area will be transformed from unusable and sometimes unattractive space to an inviting and beautiful place. The estimated cost is $400,000. We had $75,000 just as a placeholder in there, and after design, lighting, railing, amenities, stamped concrete to make it look presentable, and future seating, it's upwards of $400,000. So,
Didn't we get a grant for that?
what's that?
Did we get a grant for that?
No grants
We have a
for,
Main Street grant, but it's only $12,000.
right, 12,500, and that's for the furniture.
Oh, okay.
And if you notice, that's priority 6. I don't know if city council wants to jump in and say, move that up, move that down, I'd appreciate it. ADA,
Sorry, just, all I know is, and we met with Nick, I know Main Street has to use that grant by June of 25. So even if it's just purchasing or something, maybe.
I think they, purchasing picnic tables, I don't know if they're picnic tables, they're tables for that area for dining.
Okay.
Next is ADA improvements, city building, that's just is ongoing. We have a budget of $520,000 in 2024. That is for any kind of ADA improvements. 5 points realignment. The realignment will improve safety and reduce confusion of the traveling public. That's $3,200,000. That's to make that's the estimate. We have not projected anything out from there. We know that CDOT is in current design for realigning exit 14 and the Colorado exit as it comes out. As this moves forward, we'll have to look at getting grants or seeing how that design plays out, and realigning the 5 points without that Colorado leg will help. I know that when I was here previous, we had engineering done to make that intersection a four-way. We also looked at a roundabout. Because of the 5 points entry and the angles of those entries, the roundabout had to be enlarged quite a bit, and there's not enough land there, so there's that. We talked about the animal shelter improvements. Cheryl mentioned that we took the 5,500 out and we moved it over here. We have in 2024 18,000 to spend. That is for the concrete run. The following year is 15,000 is for the awnings. Capitol Hill improvements, that is the triangle that's out there at Capitol Hill, an entry feature or whatever we do there. Right now it's just an elevated asphalt curb that is there. That's estimated cost $150,000.
Is that a priority?
No, I mean,
could we use that money somewhere else? I mean,
well,
it's not that.
It's what we're showing
you.
you.
Use it for something.
Right. What we're showing you is the estimate. It's not budgeted out any farther than that. The staff did not see it as a priority. I mean, it would be nice to enhance the entrance as you come in and do something there, but priority-wise, staff did not prioritize it. It's been mentioned in council. I know that. I've got the history of that. But there's no budget.
The triangle, 20.
Oh, Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Children's Museum, the front door, if we want to use it, there has to be an elevator, ADA access, concrete improvements, crack repair, fire escape repair. There's a lot of repair needed to that building. Estimate is $250,000. Right now, if you notice the last statement on that, the fire escape is welded to the gas meter pipe. So we're going to rectify that, but it's like, just over the years, let's tie to that. That estimate is 250, and we've got that in 2025.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Have we ever thought of selling that building? We just have no real purpose for it. I wonder if it's something that we should sell and see if somebody else wants to put that money into that building.
That's up to council to decide. It's a city asset. It's historically the very first city hall and firehouse.
Definitely.
So I don't know if it's designated on the history. Yeah, Colorado history. So
it's just been sitting there vacant, and we don't seem to have a use that we could come up with that we could do with it, and I'm wondering if the private markets.
That would require it be voted on, right?
yeah. It was a children's museum, and we had somebody running that, but when ADA requirements came about, it just was not feasible to keep that. So, yep.
Because it was used for municipal purposes.
City Hall Annex and Library window. That's City Hall, the Annex, and the library window replacement. These windows have been in here since the 80s. Next door, the same. The library, probably even older. It's for energy efficiency, and there may be grants out there, but the estimate is 400,000, nothing budgeted. Citywide paving is, $1 million is there every year, but because of all the requirements of the ADA and resurfacing, we have to, we're getting a good handle with all the ADA corners that need to be done. And if you notice, there's, the asphalt over the years has been overlaid too much to match into those ADA requirements, but we needed to get the ADA done first, and now we could start probably milling the streets down and getting them to match into our ADA improvements.
Hey,
So,
Mike, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What percentage of completion are we on that ADA? Are we anywhere close?
Bob, do you know, can you give us a percentage?
On
Completion of
yeah,
our ADA?
ADA curb ramps, phase 3, we're probably 50%.
Okay.
We have to be 100% by September of 25. We anticipate that'll be done probably in the spring of 25. But by September, it needs to be completely done. Attachment B is probably 15% complete. It needs to be completed also by September of 25. Nevada and Cedar, the DOJ's working with this. They realize that needs to, it's out to design right now.
Yeah.
So when Drexel Barrel comes back in with design documents, then we'll have a better line on when we can go out to bid on that project. That doesn't have a hard date on it, so they're like I said, they're giving some flexibility, but the top two we do have hard dates on.
Okay. Thank you.
How far does that extend out? Is that the end of it?
Pardon me?
If, when you give us that 25, is that the end of putting ADA, or is that?
It's the end
I
of
thought it
meeting the
goes for
DOJ
7 years,
requirement.
ain't it?
It's not the end of our responsibility to
That's what
ADA.
I meant.
Right.
Yes, we would be in compliance with DOJ. But as a city, we still need to have a transition plan, and it takes one more person like we had before to call up the DOJ, and they could be suing us. We have a transition plan in place. We basically are in compliance, and we can tell them this is where we're gonna go, because it'll have a date for that corner.
So we'll have to put money available for that, right?
That is correct. We've made a lot of strides, but we
Yeah.
still have many to go.
Okay, Nevada and Cedar, where is that issue at?
As far as,
Getting it done?
it's under design right now.
Oh, okay.
We have a consultant. It's a very complicated intersection. It came back as our highest injury or accident in our traffic study. And then you compound that by running the railroad through it.
Right.
So you have to tie in. About the only fix that can be done to really fix that is signalize it. So it's going to need signalization, traffic signals. They have to be coordinated with the drop-down bars from the railroad. So it all has to be coordinated and designed by a consultant.
So what happens with that $1 million? I mean, does that gets into?
We carry it forward to the next year. That's part of the 4.2 you said?
Okay.
So it'll get moved to next year.
So
I anticipate, I probably won't be here, but, once the September deadline, and we get all these ADA corners done, we could start picking, $1 million and get a couple blocks these days, so.
Can we use some of that money for potholes and road? I mean, there are places where potholes are continuously all the time. Can't we get a grinder in there and add that up and repave sections of that?
We do have a line item budget in Public Works for pothole and patching.
Because I mean, even Adams Street, the bridge there is terrible to drive across anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, really bad. But there are a lot of other places that, I mean, we just keep putting pothole, and the next time it rains or snows, I mean, it's pretty tough to do that unless you take out a whole section and redo it.
Yep.
But we do have a line item in there somewhere.
It's in Public Works,
It's
That's correct.
paving and
asphalt.
asphalt. Moving on, I know that there's always been talk of the Colorado Islands redesign. We put an amount there of 15 million. The reason for that is that has a 100-year-old sewer, water, all the infrastructure. We'd have to mill that whole street down and redo the curbs, everything there. So if that's a priority, we could start looking at that. Again, it may be high, but based on First Street was over $1 million per block. We counted up the blocks on Colorado and Alta, 15 million.
Are streets like Colorado Avenue and stuff like that, are there grants available for that?
There is through, one that we've been able to acquire quite often is the Energy Impact Assistance Fund. That funding is kind of going down as there's no more coal mining, there's no more, there's gas production, oil production, but if we keep going down that road, that Energy Impact Fund, it keeps going down. As a matter of fact, when we talk budget, you'll see that we anticipated more revenues than we got this year. So, but that is one source where we can go and get that kind of money. 15 million, I don't. And again, that's my number based on First Street and the cost to do First Street. First Street was major. It was bricks, it was concrete. This could be a little different, but council wants to move that up in priority. Please let me know and get a hold of me. That's one page down, front and back, but the community center ceiling tile replacement, $30,000 in 2025. That's just over the years. Between the roof leaking and stuff happening there, we need to replace some roof tiles.
Was that someone coming in and doing that, or?
I think, them acoustic tiles over the years, they get moved, they get
No, but I mean,
moisture.
is that someone,
Oh, yes. Yeah, if they have to replace, you mean a contractor?
Yeah.
I don't know if that was city replacing those or contractor.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can talk about that.
yeah.
I just have a question. Isn't that, because when we were in there, a lot of that's water damage. That's not part of an insurance claim?
Yeah, well, if you go back, we went through community center insurance, 62,000.
But it's not included with the interior on the 30?
Oh, that might be.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Dog park is currently in process, and that 62,000, so that's happening. That's going to refurbish the dog park and just clean that up. Fire station number 1, roof repair. The roof is leaking and holding water. It's $5,000. That's this year. Fisher's Peak dam remediation is our retention structures for dam flooding prevention. I'm sorry. So there has to be pipe repairs and fencing and other improvements. We got a grant through the Soil
NRCS.
Conservation Service, the
NRCS.
NRCS division. They're doing design. Is that completed or is still going?
For the most part, it's complete. Of that $4.5 million, they'll do 65%, which is $3.2 million. The city will be on the hook for 1.3 of that.
Right. And this is an estimated number. It might be more, might be less.
65% is who? Grant?
NRCS.
NRCS, it's not really a grant, it's,
Natural resource.
yeah.
They will fund that as part of the project. Fox West Theater, $766,000 is grant funding that we have, correct? And there was some funding for a outbuilding in the back to hold electrical equipment and such. That is ongoing. Future projects there, well, and also the exterior. I think they finished up all sides of the tuck and pointing. Is that correct? Because I've been gone, but I saw scaffolding, and I think they've done all sides, so the building is sound and the bricks are solid. So I think this grant is for the outside structure. No?
So we didn't include grants.
Okay.
And, well, I take it back. We included grants, we included the city's match. They do have a $600,000 grant for, it's called the north side enclosure, but that's all their responsibility. There's no city match for that. So those types of items aren't included in here.
Is that 766 us then?
Excuse me?
That 766, is that us?
That's
Yes,
their
600.
grant that they intend on spending in the
Okay.
next.
Yeah.
I got confused when you had said that we
Yeah.
didn't include grants. I'm sorry.
It's hard to explain. We have to calculate for it, or we have to show it as an expense, but we have the money sitting in our coffers for it.
Okay.
But the 600,000, we don't have it yet, and if they do spend it, it's just gonna be an in and an out. So that's why we're not showing it, because council wouldn't prioritize that since they already have the funding. I hope that's clear. As much.
The Garfield widening, phase 1. So I know this has been brought up, the streetlights up Garfield. Frank has brought this up
There's a lot
3
of guys
years
that
ago.
live- There's a lot of guys that live in Allendale back there. You guys in favor of putting up lights up there?
So it's been looked at, and the current pole line, where you would think we could just throw some lights up there, it would shine up not on the roadway based on the arms and everything, even extended arms. So the Peters, Tim Peters subdivision that he did up there, he granted the city 20 foot, I believe, along the Garfield right-of-way, so that gives us room to peel that mountainside back a little bit and blend it in, and then have a kind of a trail. So the trail, I mean, just the grading and a better shoulder of gravel, $900,000 that would cost to do that. It is not budgeted out. That would have to be prioritized by city council there.
What about the gas line?
Well, there is no gas line. When we're grading that out, we'll have the opportunity to put one in, and I'm sure Steve will take that opportunity to make that redundant up there and get that loop in.
That was part of the issue.
Yeah. High school drainage, I don't remember talking about this. Bob, is this something that you can enlighten us?
This is the corrugated metal swash pipe that runs basically down Willow Street through the high school parking lot. We replaced approximately 225 feet last year because the parking lot in high school was failing, it was settling. The sides of the pipe were completely corroded. It was put in, we figured when the high school was built in the early 70s. So we're anticipating that line that heads up to, is it West Street that's on the south side of the north side of the high school? It's another about 600 lineal feet, about $300,000 to replace that. We're just fighting our keeping our fingers crossed right now. It needs to be done. Just, it's not showing failure yet, but it's anticipated if it looked like anything that we did replace.
Okay, thank you. Linden Avenue improvements, I think it's been reported, I've heard that the railroad will cooperate with us to change some of them crossings on that section of Linden where the railroad crosses and replace 5 concrete inlays and remove 2 others that are not being used that actually are near Prairie and back a ditch over in that direction. This is kind of, so when we do that, we'll need to improve the roadway in there, and it makes sense to do all that. We've got an estimate of $2 million there. Nothing budgeted out there, but just to do that section of road. Main Street reconstruction, those plans are 95% done?
90%.
90% done, and that is from basically LEA?
Just, yep.
LEA to the highway. Cost of that, $11,200,000. Nothing budgeted out. That would definitely be grant funds, trying to get that done. That would be replacing some of the utilities. Some of it is done, but most utilities in that section would be replaced, including the sewer line that's 18 foot deep in that area. So
storm sewer.
Yeah. And these are just things as we go forward that need to be done, but you can see the cost. The old Waterworks building was contemplated as a trailhead or office space, and the interior of the building will have to be totally renovated. The exterior was tuck pointed, stabilized, the roof was done. This was grant funding, but the interior, there's been several iterations. I think one design was done for office space and maybe outdoor recreation. That estimate came in at $1 million. And now finally, number 35, pickleball court. So I know that a lot of people are here, and I'll just read this. With pickleball leading the charge in growth of a sport comes the need for the assets to accommodate play. This project is now being planned at Los Niños Park, where a restroom facility already exists. However, an ADA path will need to be installed to the facility. 360 is allocated, 180 from marijuana, 180 from 2024 CIP. So we have 360. The estimate is coming in $500,000. That is a rough estimate. I know that our outdoor rec coordinator had talked to some companies, and he's got 2 numbers. The one for redoing at, I guess they were talking at the high school, which didn't work out, was $260,000 to resurface and put tile down and everything. Brand new up, $450,000 to $500,000. So we put $500,000 in there. It may not come in there, but that's the estimate. Again, we haven't projected anything out in the money, but we do have allocated $360. If that goes in 2024 or 2025, I know that costs continue to go up. I don't know if council would like to discuss that at all. Prioritize it. We're moving forward. We just haven't projected anything. We've got layouts where it fits back around. If you can visualize where the basketball courts are, and then toward the park, there's a playground facility, and then there's a smaller soccer field, fitting it in there. 6 courts, is that correct? 6 courts in that area. And we, if you remember, through the whole Holy Trinity, we're trying to acquire the property where we have an easement to drive back there, and they're gracious enough to let everybody park back there, but it's somebody else's property. We're looking to acquire that and rolling it all in, where we'll encompass the old Noah's Ark building for whatever we need there. Storing nets, storing park equipment, maintenance equipment, and then parking along that. So it is moving forward, so to speak, as we go. The next item is pickleball.
Sorry, when you say that's moving forward, Mike, what do you mean specifically?
We have engineering doing the layout and design, and we have to move sprinkler systems. There's a gas line through there that we're trying to miss. There's other infrastructure. So would you put a percentage on that layout, Bob?
Have not yet.
So how soon
Before
before?
the
Before
completion of
it's-
the layout?
Yeah.
Oh, we're probably 90%.
90% done
So
on the
just-
layout.
Would you be able to speculate, Mike, if nothing changes right now, when there will be a pickleball court there?
Next year.
Okay. So I have a question. The last time that we were presented pickleball courts in a plan, or there was some bids for it, it seemed to me that bids, they varied pretty significantly. And just as one observation, one of them had listed an 8-foot perimeter fence, and one of them was listing if I remember right, 4-foot perimeter fence. But my point is they're significantly different. My question is, if we sent out more cohesively crafted RFP, is there any chance that we can lower the projected costs? I mean, if
I would think so, based on what I've seen, and the one had tile. I think we're just going for concrete with maybe a surface, but currently they play on the basketball court, which is concrete. The 8-foot fence is probably, I don't know if it's 6 or 8 foot tall. Could get pretty crazy with pickleball and hitting into other courts, so we want to. I think the standard is 6 foot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the use would be there. I mean, obviously, there's 7 people here that weigh in on it, but I think it would be a good plan to get a cohesive RFP, one that was very, very, very thorough, remove as much ambiguity as is possible, and combine it with preliminary design and get a cost nailed down. I mean, then we can really firm up that.
Yeah, because I think last time there was.
That's correct. That's what that's what engineering is doing, and they're 90% complete. So that when we put it out to bid, it'll be apples to apples. I know there are companies that that this is what they do, and we may be able to sole source it, but because it's where it's at, we got to be responsible with our money and get some good quotes in there, analyze those, make sure it's just not some concrete firm that's going to lay a slab down. It's got to be done right. So
have we had a chance to check on that grant, the one I was telling you about for seniors now?
I have not. I have not checked on
Colorado
it.
Springs got six courts built for nothing on their grant.
Right.
And it was through the federal government for aging senior citizens. But that might be.
I saw somebody on that news program actually being interviewed, And she is here, I don't know. And I'll talk to Jane Fredman.
Okay.
She was instrumental in getting that going, and I have not talked to her since I've come back.
Because
There's
if we
a
get
lot
that-
going on.
We get that grant, there's extra that could actually entice the park and make it a lot better with other stuff, because we had planned on doing that.
Right.
With playground equipment and stuff, the way the expense is.
Yeah. So, hopefully that suffices and we can move forward with that construction more sooner than later. Along with that, because there's no path, we have pickleball, Los Niños Park sidewalk and walking path. Currently, we have a restroom facility that is not accessible. It's in the middle of the grass field, so there's no path to it. If we get the tournaments and everything and we have parking around back and then parking on Chestnut, we want to have a nice walking path, and I think the path will just enhance the overall park. So that is estimated to be $252,000. I think that's an 8-foot wide path around the facility. Police department landscape above the new block wall. The First Street project had to kind of redo their wall. If you drive by there now, it's just weeds and grass, and $40,000 is to do some landscaping there, hardscape, moving forward. Public Works building is been ongoing, and we have $1 million in 2025 for that building. There's the need to put all their equipment, rather than being outside, inside. They're looking at the lot that is next to the gas department, between the new clinic that's being built and the gas department. And it would just move equipment closer in town than currently, mile outside of town. And when they have to bring things in, they have to road it anyway. $1 million in 2025. River visioning. The river visioning has been ongoing, and we are currently under contract with them for $625,000, I believe, for the preliminary and getting all the topo, the NEPA studies, the environmental studies. The final design is $700,000, and that is anticipated in 2025. That would entail some creative grant funding, because the overall visioning implementation, as you can see, is $20 million. It would change the face of Trinidad. It would be something that would rival, like, I don't know, Pueblo's Riverwalk, not quite like that, but it would give access to the river. It would recreate Chimino Park. It would add a roadway that actually aligns up with the roads that exist over on Plum to Animas here at the intersection. I believe council has seen the preliminary on that. If not, I can get it to you, but that
on the river visioning, last year we went for a GoPro grant, didn't we? And we didn't get it, but Architera, I think, is trying to obtain that grant again once we're finished with it.
Mm-hmm. There's been some back and forth with possible state revolving fund loan where you can request up to $10 million with 80% forgiveness depending on the thing, on the demographics of Trinidad, and I hear we're sitting well with that, but
Yeah, we hit on all cylinders on
right,
it.
there's no guarantee, so
Right.
that would be a council decision whether you go to that. There's also charter provisions that we can only go for so many, 20% of last year's evaluation of property taxes, which is 80 million, so we're looking at 16 million that could go for a loan, but then that puts the city on the hook for, it's low interest loan, but it could be a 20-year loan, so that's something for council that when whoever comes up here, you'll have to think about. Simpsons Rest, there was a lot of improvements talked there, and the estimate to do that is $500,000. We have $62.5 in the 2024 budget. Property acquisition, I believe, the water tank and the back half of the mountain is not owned by the city. It's on the Morgan property, and the Trust for Public Lands is helping Jared to look at that. And no, that's the River Vision. Sorry, he's looking for an appraisal from a local appraiser to get the value, so that we know moving forward that we're only paying for appraised value. That's in process.
I can't believe you confused.
How did I confuse you? Southside Park fence repair, replacement, and expansion of Field C. The areas of the fence have to be repaired or replaced. The backstop fencing has to be replaced. Field C will be expanded by 20 feet in the center field to make it a 220-foot legal field size for the college to play on. Right now it's 200 foot. I guess it is not per spec, so we need to move that fence 20 feet. That means moving the warning track. That means planting more grass. That means moving the irrigation system. That is $100,000, and it's budgeted for this year. So that is kind of in motion as we speak. A lot of money, but needs to be done. State Street, that that is area that we have constant flooding problems in the area, so more outlets need to be installed and the road needs to be crowned. That is that's $1.915 million, nothing budgeted, just it's something that needs to be done in the city. Wayfinding signs, $550,000. Don't know if that was budgeted or that's just part of existing CIP, or
It wasn't.
it was not. No. Willow and Pine Landscaping, that's the triangle up there, and the city owns the lot next to it. That's $100,000. There's been a request to put a labyrinth in there. Not sure that'll go, but we're looking at that. And that's the projects we have going now. In 2024 and going forward, our 5-year plan per charter, we have to have a 5-year plan. These have been ongoing for quite some time. $500,000 for ADA access, $250,000 for Monument Lake, $50,000 for parks and playground, $50,000 for storm sewer rebuild, $1 million for street resurfacing, $200,000 for Riverwalk improvements, and then there's a contingency of $350,000.
Take a deep breath.
If you add all those up, Cheryl, 2.3? 2.4. We, depending on how our sales tax and revenues come in, that may have to change, but it is required. Les, hang with me, buddy.
I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you. Paying rapt attention. This and Cheryl's budget, I love.
I don't know if council wants to interject anything in any of those projects or give some direction. I know it's a lot, but
Let's start with Eli. This is just a suggestion, so council, this is work session, so it's nothing regimented.
Okay.
Let's start with Eli and just get like a philosophy, or what would you like,
Well,
what is your feelings, and then just very, very briefly summarize what you would
well, I
like.
think that, everyone put together a pretty compiled list of priority areas, which I believe, Mike, thank you, and staff. But, infrastructure is important, the roads. Some of the other things can take a shelf or take a back seat, may not be as important as some of the major facets in the city. But I believe a lot of these things could be put on hold. A lot of the secondary issues that are costing a lot of money as we speak, and probably more so in the future. But that priority list, I believe, is pretty much, I believe, it's good.
Frank, do you have anything to say?
Oh, I kind of talked a lot already on a lot of this.
Yeah, you did.
But, yeah, I'd like to see some of the projects that I talked about done. And I know we have to prioritize some of those that need to be done immediately. But I would not be against sitting down again and talking about some of this without a long meeting like that, and just specifically do this, nothing else, work session for an hour or so, and that way we could get a little more clarity, because we all got an idea of what needs to be done, so maybe we can get together and sit back and bring our ideas, what we really think is priority, and do it, because it's tough to just do all this in one night to get it done.
Yes.
So that would be my suggestion.
Okay. Naaman?
This was intense, so I appreciate the spreadsheet. Let's get that out of the way. This is awesome. I think we should focus on safety right now and ADA compliant kind of things, you know what I mean? Just to make sure that we're not getting sued or dealt with on that level, just to make sure we're at least coming in hot on the safety side of things. But I would love to go over this again.
Yeah.
I think, judging by her reaction down there, this is going to be a really popular comment. But I mean, the problem is, we've been here since 2, and I think a lot of this warrants more discussion, and we only have a limited number of work sessions, so I understand the temptation to leverage it in, but I think, to Frank's point, it takes a lot more discussion than what we really have here. I mean, personally, I think we could have started our work session at noon and not finished till 6 and done just this. Right. That's my feeling. A few observations. Where is the skate park in here?
Yeah.
I'm potentially missed it.
it's in lottery funds and
The very bottom.
Oh, okay.
I stopped at we're gonna go through
Probably
utilities.
We still have more to go.
Yes.
This is just a refreshing break.
Well, I wondered that those were all the major projects like out there and,
I did have, I wanted to understand a little better. I think Alley A, and hopefully I'm not alone in this, would be a real positive addition to what we're trying to do as a city. I mean, hopefully the Rad Fest continues, to Mayor's point, other potential, things like that continue, because those those are festivals that are self-supporting and definitely bring a financial impact to Trinidad, no doubt. Do they have negatives? I'm sure they do. But if we could get Allier done, I think it's overall, adding to the quiver to support that. That's my opinion. So my question was, is that money in the budget? Is it something that we could move forward? And then sort of dovetailing into that, I mean, I definitely understand people's frustration with pickleball court issues. If there's any way we could expedite that in any fashion, I think we should. I wish the pickleball people court were here to hear that. Just to.
We are.
I thought. I'm
He's
sorry.
so happy.
I am so happy. But it's just something I think when you look at the whole way our town fits together, I think it's starting to be cohesive in a lot of ways. And again, why I said we could start at noon and go till 6 and continue talking. I mean, Councilwoman Ogletree brought up a good point about should we look at the Children's Museum and maybe privatizing that. I mean, in a lot of ways, the private industry does things like that. I don't want to use the word better, but maybe more efficiently than the city does. If that can, again, work into the cohesive plan that Trinidad is hopefully becoming, I think that would be really a positive thing for all of Trinidad. But it takes a ton more discussion than we're able to have in this, because we still have obviously a really important decision to tackle here after all this. But I think after all that yammering, my takeaway is I'd really like to see Allier, if it's funded in the budget, and also anything we can do to expedite the pickleball court. I'd like to see that. I'll stop talking there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Such respect up here. I really love
the whole
this.
thing. We just went through that. We're going to talk again.
Being that Aaron took everything we were going to say, all went wrong. He was reading my notes over here. I was like, oh, darn it, I got to start over. No, I'm in complete agreement with Frank, and we need a day that we can sit down, go line item by line item. One good thing that has gone through is that today we just knocked off the actual descriptions, which is really good. So if we do one, I really think if we sat down one by one, we possibly could eliminate some projects that don't need to be there, and go through and prioritize. The priorities that you guys put on there, they make a lot of sense. But we have other projects that have been sitting in the wings for 2-3 years. We may want to move forward on and get some true clarification and maybe get some clear direction on how we want that to move forward. So I think if we did another work session, I honestly wouldn't be opposed to doing one extra one if we had to, to fill in somewhere or before actual council meeting and kind of transition. I know it kind of is wear and tear on a lot of us, but you never know. I'm willing to do that so we can get this done as soon as possible so you guys can move forward on past this part of it.
I had a quick question if you were done, Manny.
Sure.
I'm sure we can't do something like that. I'm sure it ends up being a violation of sunshine laws, but you can't do like a internal polling via email. I mean, something to.
Well, let everybody speak first.
Okay.
I think this is helpful. I think when Mr. Ruger left, he kind of went over some of the stuff with us. So this is the second time we've heard a lot of this. And what I'm sitting here thinking is that you want from us more of a above the fray view. And here's my above the fray view. I think we should do whatever's low-hanging fruit. I think Alley A and pickleball courts are things that show movement and that we're actually doing something that we said we were going to do. From the perspective of how do we get Trinidad to move forward, I think the river visioning project is something I think we've got to prioritize and continue pushing forward, because like you said, it will change the face of the city. and make it a place that people want to come and recreate. Other things I think are important are the Santa Fe Trail improvements, the walking and riding path along there. I think those are things that are useful to the city. But that's what I'd like us to look at, things that are doable and that have energy behind them. I think those things have that, and I don't want them to get lost in this. And that's what's critical. We can't get lost. What are our priorities and where are we going? And yes, some of the stuff we're not going to be able to do. I think the next conversation we should have is that you should say, we have X amount of money. What do you want to do this year with it?
Okay.
That's what I meant to say.
You know, it's really amazing how my perspective on all of these figures have changed in 365 days, because what we were in 2023 are not what we are in 2024, and God only knows what 2025 is going to bring for us. But I'm looking, you know, to me, I think to prioritize it, we have to maintain what we have. And ADA is number one. I mean, we don't have a choice. But I think some of those CIP projects that maintain the assets that we have now should float to the top of the list. And what should float down from the list is projects that add to what our workforce is trying to maintain already, such as Simpson's Rest. I mean, you know, that could take a lot of money, a lot of staff time, and truthfully, unless the economy in Trinidad changes drastically over the next 2 years, we're still not going to have the manpower to maintain that area. So I don't know if council would agree to do this, but this is the first time I've ever heard it done. I think we should, I'm going to assign you guys homework. Put your top 10 items, and let's not add ADA on there, because that's a given. What you want to see done, top 10, and 10 items that you don't feel are important as far as capital improvement. And another thing that when Aaron mentioned about the waterworks building, I'd really like to get inventory of what our real estate is. I think that would be really helpful to see what we have. I would love sometime in the future for like the waterworks building to be utilized, but it's a luxury now, and I don't think we can afford luxuries right now. We have to get down to the meat and potatoes of this budget. And this is only step one of cuts that we're going to have to make across the board on a lot of things. So I think we need to be realistic on our plans. As I said, my perspective now is way different than it was last year at this time, mostly because everybody blames me for everything because I'm the mayor, but that's okay. No, I'm just kidding.
It wasn't your fault?
I'm just kidding. Pardon?
It wasn't your fault?
Yeah, kind of it was. Yeah.
So I appreciate that, Mayor, because that's where I was thinking, you know, I'm not going to be here.
No.
The next person in the seat is going to take forward what's going on. Everybody's saying they want another whole work session, but there's a lot of things here. If you can take this list and number 1 to 10.
Yes.
And then we could consolidate and see, okay, everybody's like on board with these things. We, as staff, can kind of hone in and get some stuff going here. So I appreciate that.
Are you agreeable to doing that?
Homework?
How do you want us to submit this? Teacher?
You bring it, teacher.
Yeah.
You said homework.
Yeah.
Let's bring it to the next work session.
If I may, I just want to highlight that 2 items are strategic plan based, so you want to make sure and keep those in your
Right.
top 10
Okay.
because you established a strategic plan. And then the other one is the Santa Fe Trail. We're on the hook for this, actually, and the
Right.
CDOT audio pedestrian signals. We're on the hook because we already have those grants awarded. So we got to move forward. We don't want to turn grant money back in.
No, no,
So are
no.
those under the number 1? I'm sorry,
Yes,
Mr.
they
Mayor.
are.
Yes.
They
Okay,
are.
so should we just omit number 1s?
What our top 10? Yeah.
No,
Well,
'cause it
let's-
looks like that's where they're at, the
Yeah.
ADA, right? I'm sorry. go
It would
ahead.
be nice to know which projects have grant money available too.
Okay.
I think it says on there. It does, the description says it.
Okay.
Our grant match is represented in this line item. It shows the grant match money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I got my,
They both say.
I like
So
this.
things that have grant matches are happening, we're not, that's not even.
Oh, okay. I see.
I'm sorry.
So things that have grant matches, we are doing.
They're prioritized as ones.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right,
Okay, so
I-
just the ones marked 1 have grant money, correct? Is that what you're saying?
They're
No,
in there.
no, the Santa Fe Trail and the audible pedestrian signals are grant related. And they are prioritized as ones.
Okay.
So Councilman Trujillo was maybe on target when he said maybe just automatically add the ones to your top
Okay.
10.
Actually wrote that down.
Okay.
Well, let's see.
I guess it's,
No, you throw
7.
out all of the ones. Like, yeah.
Just omit them, then they're automatically gonna be.
Yeah, automatically.
Yeah,
is.
good idea. She still gets 10, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What format would you like?
Because I was gonna be like
Whatever your
10.
little part.
Which
there are
font?
the other 3. If you want to see,
Yeah, so
Okay.
Mayor,
Can we take 5 minutes for a break here?
Hold
before
on,
we
hold
discuss
on.
it?
that's up to you. I just wanted, I know we went through the water worth and we saw a lot of the utility projects. The guys are here, and I didn't go through those, but it's about a page and a quarter of utility projects that were discussed during the water worth, so they're built into that budget, but 400 block of West 4th, the water services need to be disconnected. There's a 2-inch galvanized. The gas department has to upgrade to 75-year-old equipment in stations, reg stations. Cedar Street pressure reducing station, it's 75 years old. Park Street, the Pepsi, these are all reg stations that are over 75 years old that need replacing. Steve's been working at them as he can. The North Side City Natural Gas Station, that would be the one to the north of the Industrial Park, working with the city of Walsenburg, as their gas line goes through there. That's been ongoing, a lot of back and forth and a lot of changes in leadership north as well. The Garfield Avenue gas line, that's been talked about. There's a new water treatment plant below the dam. That's kind of been in the works for a while. That's a huge study that will need to be prioritized moving forward. Lead and copper rules are coming down. We're currently completing all the surveys on our water lines. That's an unknown, but it could be extensive, the requirements of that. The Old Cypress Road, Mark talked about during that presentation, the transmission line.
Can you move that? What is that?
That's my
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was his phone. I apologize.
The water line under the football field's been talked about. The 100 block of West Plum needs to be completed to form a looping line. Power Light Solar Farm is installing 1.8 megawatt system that is through ARPA. I'm sure you guys have heard some of that. That is going out by the sewer treatment plant. That's in the early stages, but they're moving forward with that. 3 communities. sanitary sewer point repair throughout the system. We need lines completed. There's 400 block Commercial Street. There's a sewer line that is clay tile that's cracked. It's currently operational, but that is $1 million project there. Cougar Canyon, should a developer come in, that lift station needs to be fixed. And then the water distribution master plan that would identify all the needs, $250,000. So I just wanted to make sure that it's not just general fund projects, it's also for utilities that are doing their thing too.
So utilities have prioritized their.
They have prioritized their things. Yes.
Mike, should we include those in our?
I don't
No.
think
They're
so,
also-
because the utilities are enterprise and we'll have to work it into
Okay.
the waterwork presentation and rate
I'm all
structure.
in favor of sewers.
Okay.
Really want to.
I'm sorry, Frank. 5-minute break or
Yeah,
whatever?
let's take 5.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to move on.
Yeah, we need to clear our break.
It's 5 after 5, let's do 5:10. Yeah.
That's only 4 minutes.
Run.
Yes.
Break that into a different.